Plaintiff Martin Cunningham says when he started dating the defendant, she knew he liked to smoke and drink, and she was fine with it. However, as soon as Martin put a ring on the defendant's finger, she suddenly had an issue with his lifestyle. Martin claims this eventually led to their divorce, and he's suing his ex today for the cost of a washing machine. Defendant Bertram Cunningham says the reason she didn't like Martin smoking around her was because she had lung disease, and he made her condition worse. Bertram claims 3 days after they divorced, Martin started dating his current fiancée, who's with him in court today. And Bertram's countersuing for breach of contract and a high chair.
Start with you, sir.
Yeah, I met BB in 2005 at a private club, and we started dating. And
What type of private
well, it
club?
was like the Orioles, you know, like kind of Eagles, Orioles. You know how it's called, the Orioles. It's just a regular organization like the Moose. I don't know if you know of any of those clubs, but it's like that.
Okay.
And we met there, and we started dating. And I brought up to her that, you know, I drink and I smoke. And I said, if that's a problem, let me know now, because then we'll just stop this right before it gets going, you know. And she said, no, I don't have a problem with it. So I moved in with her, and for 2 years, there wasn't a problem. You know, I didn't have any problem at all, and neither did she. But then I married her. Seemed like as soon as I put that ring on her finger, that boom. It's like, hey,
She switched up on
all
you.
she wanted to do was tell me about my drinking and smoking, you know.
Defendant Bertram Cunningham was married to the plaintiff, and she claims he started dating his current fiancée, who's with him in court, just 3 days after they divorced.
Go ahead.
And then, you know, she always had a habit of, you know, making derogatory comments to me when my children are around, her children are around.
About
You know,
whom?
About me,
About
about stuff, you know, my drinking, whatever, you know, why don't you say something to him, you know, and all this. So
Other than that, you all got along. When did you divorce?
we divorced in 2015
Why?
because after 7 years and she had come into some money, I just kind of had enough. You know, I only figured
She
I'd last.
came into some money. You left at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think a lot of people believed that, but I wasn't in it for the money, you know. And, you know, I figured I only lasted that long because I didn't want to go through a second divorce, but I figured enough was enough. So we filed a
Why did
dissolution.
your first wife quit you?
No, I quit her.
Go ahead. You give me some background.
Okay, when we got along great when we were dating, and as far as being with him day in and day out, I wasn't, because he lived at one place and I lived another, and then we finally moved in together. And he really didn't drink like he did, like I'm gonna say 2 years later. And my health problems got worse because of asthma and COPD, which the smoking was really,
Yeah.
and I couldn't, well, my pulmonary test the year before we got a divorce was 53. The following November, the same time, I went back, it was 76.
He was smoking your company?
We used to fight about getting in the car. I always said,
Is
you
that
have
true?
to smoke in front of my sister?
Yes, sir. It's like I even spoke because I even had lung cancer in 2009, and I'm a lung cancer survivor.
All right, but if you didn't mind
the
killing
doctor still-
yourself, why would you? She doesn't want to die.
I did my smoking in the basement, and I bought like 3 air purifiers. I never smoked upstairs.
That's
you know,
why
but-
I asked you, did you smoke in her company, around her?
No, I smoked in the basement, but she claimed it kept coming through the floor
I
up to
think
her.
it does.
You know,
And
but she wanted me to smoke out in the garage. I said, well, that's worse than the basement because the garage leads right into the kitchen and stuff. That's even closer, you know.
Why couldn't you just do it outside then?
It's cold in Ohio in the winter.
Well, if your cigarettes were that important to you, go ahead. Your cigarettes were more important than her life?
I guess so.
You still smoking?
Yes, sir.
If you tell a crackhead it's killing you, and they'll at least have sense enough to smoke their crack somewhere else. Right?
Right?
So you're worse than a crackhead. If they would listen and you won't, go ahead, ma'am. And so that's why you all broke up?
that's the biggest reason we broke up. Plus, I inherited some money, and it seemed to cause problems. I wanted him to quit his bus driving job, and because of his health problems, which he beat the cancer. He's fine. He's smoking, drinking. his girlfriend even smokes. And so the smoking is not a problem to Martin at all, but it became a problem to me. But I wanted him to move the winter time with me and spend the winter because of his lungs being so bad and mine in Florida. And I agreed to pay for everything but the cigarettes and the beer. And he said no.
That was a deal breaker.
No, that's
Not
the second
paying
tail
for-
breaker is I had major surgery on my arm.
When we were in Florida, I always smoked outside. So I did smoke outside down there.
When the weather was good.
Well,
you
because it's
smoked
always good in Florida, you know. So you could go outside. And, you know, the reason I didn't quit my job is she said she's not going to buy the beer and cigarettes. Well, I had no income.
That's what I
So
said.
how
That was a
gonna do
deal
it?
breaker. You couldn't get
Right.
your cigarettes. All right, you had cigarettes over paradise.
But when I was in the hospital, I had this naggy cough. I had a real bad time through the surgery. I was almost going to be taken to intensive care. And you want to jump in? She allowed to jump in and say what she heard?
State your name.
Tammy Wolf.
Yeah, what do you want to say
I'm
about
her daughter. I was in the waiting room, and because of her lungs, when they gave her a block in her shoulder, it compromised her lungs. So she couldn't breathe. So they were going to send her to ICU. It was about 3 hours that they finally got her to where she could breathe. Told us to wait, and we could go up and see her. Martin gets up, and the first thing he says is, well, it's time for a beer. And out the door he went. Never waited to see her, never made sure she was okay. So 3 days later, they did surgery. Same thing. As soon as the doctor came out and said she was out of surgery, well, it's time for a beer. I'm going home. I waited till 9:30. By the time I got up to see her, she was crying in so much pain, and she had to stay in the hospital for 29 days because she couldn't go back to the house where the smoke is coming up through the furnace vents and the air conditioning vents.
How long after that did y'all put him out?
It was soon after that I finally, I had been trying for years. I said he was going to slowly kill her and I was going to lose my mom while he lived. So, and that was my main problem with Martin was the smoking.
It was time to divorce
Yes,
if you
it was.
if you chose cigarettes over her life. All right, tell me about the lawsuit or washing machine you're suing for.
Well, after our divorce, I had moved into a property she had bought and owned, and I was supposed to live there for a year, but after 3 months, and I started dating my fiancée, Sharon, and so she wanted me to get out after 3 months. So I agreed to move, and when I went to leave, she asked me, because in the dissolution, you know, we agreed that she'd get the dryer, I'd get the washer. So she asked me if I would leave the washer at the house because she was going to move into it. And I agreed, but I made her sign this paper saying that if I ever want it back, she has to give it back.
Defendant Bertram Cunningham was married to the plaintiff, and she claims he started dating his current fiancée, who's with him in court, just 3 days after they divorced.
Ma'am, what do you say to that? Let's see your paper, please. Because
first
this
place-
was after the divorce.
Yes, he moved into a rental property that I had that I rented to him because he had no place to go for $500 a month, a 3-bedroom home. He moved the washer and dryer because I didn't need my dryer at the time, so he took them because he needed it, and the big, huge double side-by-side refrigerator. When he met Sharon, which was, we got a divorce on Tuesday, he met her on a Friday because he accidentally texted my granddaughter and said, it's safe to come over now, everybody's gone.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, I swear
I
on the
don't
Bible,
believe
that is the truth.
How could I
swear.
accidentally text your granddaughter? I didn't even text her that I remember.
Oh, you were with her at the races how many times before we ever got a divorce?
Well, that's what's with another couple.
What about his washing machine?
So he went, and that's how he started getting interested in her. And we went to Christmas in Florida to try to put a marriage together, and he was talking to her on the phone. I walked out twice, and he said he was calling Chuck, but it was funny. Chuck always didn't answer the phone. Sharon answered the phone.
All right, we got to
I'm
get
not
to this
stupid. I
washing
put two and
machine.
two together.
You have to get to the washing machine.
Okay, the washing machine, I did agree to that. I did agree and signed the paper that I would give him the washing machine back if he needed it. And I agreed.
It was his. What do you mean if he needed it? You can't determine whether to give someone their property back based on whether they need it or not.
Oh, well.
You let them take the car for a couple of days, and you call to get your car back. Hey, where you at? I need my car. I go to work tomorrow. You say, well, do you really need it? Because you can catch the bus tomorrow. So you don't really need the car, so I'm not bringing it back. You have to bring it back based on ownership. And this
He didn't
deal,
want it till just last week.
pardon?
He didn't want it till just last week. I've had it for 18 months.
Whenever he wants it, ma'am, it's his.
But wait, there's more to it. The high
Yes,
chair
ma'am.
comes in then.
What's that?
He's had my high chair ever since he's left the divorce because he had a smaller grandchild than what I did. Mine wasn't sitting in it. Now, I have 2 grandchildren missed out sitting in the side chair.
owned it?
Great-grandchildren.
Who owned it after the divorce? All right, and you have her high chair?
Yes, sir, I
And
do.
you're countersuing for that. So we'll get to that, as well as the breach of contract you're suing for. How does he owe you for that?
Well, we always split money. We went gambling, both of us. I loved to gamble. And every time I would win, I'd always split it and we'd put it in half an envelope. And I got $4,000 from my mother and father's estate. Like Abbott, he got 2 of it and I got 2. We shared everything. I mean, we didn't fight about nothing.
And that
but
wasn't
they were-
marital property. Inheritance
gave
is
it to
one of the things. Anything that you bring into the marriage prior to marriage and an inheritance are excluded from marital property. With regard to the high chair, once again, you brought it into the marriage, or what were you saying?
yeah, I
about
bought it.
And the judge awarded it to you.
No, we didn't discuss the high chair.
That's a problem. Other than who had it in their possession at the time of the divorce? Who had it in their possession?
I did.
We had it in our joint house at the time of. but
Okay.
Then that weekend, I moved out and the chair went with me.
Let's see the divorce decree, because those things not disposed of in the decree, it usually means that you keep the property you have in your possession,
Well,
because most people have separated from each other by the time they get to court. And so,
This is what we wrote out by hand, and we didn't agree on the washer dryer's not in there, and neither is we just, like he said, you don't say any more than what you have to in front of the judge because we just got a disillusion.
Not
this time.
Yeah, you said a lot today. You didn't follow that today.
Defendant Bertram Cunningham was married to the plaintiff, and she claims he started dating his current fiancée, who's with him in court, just 3 days after they divorced.
On the divorce decree, it says the household goods and personal property are already divided and in the possession of the proper party. You can try and reopen the divorce case by petitioning the judge and asking and telling him that you failed to list the chair. If that's the way you want to spend your time, going after a high chair
No washer machine.
in court, then that's up to you. But otherwise,
I say
everything
one
was
more thing before
disposed
you
of.
make-
Yes.
In that agreement, we agreed to everything, but the agreement says we have to sell the house and divide it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they gave me for 18 months to do it. He didn't mention anything in there that I gave him $10,000 already, but I got the house, paid it off like I was supposed to in the court thing, and paid the $55,000 and paid the house off. And he didn't mention anything about me giving him $10,000 on the sign, because then again, he said, don't tell the judge that. So I already gave this man $10,000.
And you agreed not to tell the judge.
Yeah.
All right, and the breach of contract for $2,000. We're disposed of the chair, the $2,000. What was that about? You said that it
I
was
inherited
money you
and I
inherited.
split it in half with him
All right, and that was during the marriage.
during the marriage.
During the marriage. And
And then I also
it
have
wasn't discussed during the divorce proceeding because you didn't want the judge to know that.
yeah. He said not to tell the judge.
It says all property has been divided and in the possession of the proper party. And what happened subsequently is something he did with his property. He let you keep his property. Now he wants his property back. $714 for the washing machine, you get to keep it. And the high chair, I can't grant you that. You have
can't?
to reopen the case with the judge, because the judge says whoever has any particular item in their possession, they keep. You say you didn't mention it to him. In fact, you deceived the judge both about the high chair and about the $2,000. So I'm going to dismiss that claim as well.
So
700
18 months later, excuse me, Judge, I didn't. 18
yes.
months later, he's still controlling me then.
Controlling you?
Yeah, because that's what he
He's
said, because
still-
I can do it.
He's still manipulating you. And so 714 is your judgment, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Never get married again, huh?